what happens? Why would you get different types? And so the standard answer is, well, there's different atmospheric conditions. But then we found that one jet would lay a short contrail, another jet right behind it would be leaving one that turned into a huge plume, another one would leave white haze. So we're saying it can't be just atmospheric conditions, there has to be something else going on. Then we saw X's and stop and goes, where a jet like this would leave a plume and then all of a sudden it would stop. We saw spray apparatuses where there was a wingtip to wingtip spraying, so that you could see that there was spray coming off the entire length of the wing, stop for a while, then start again, stop for a while, start again. So all of these things were going on, and we're saying this isn't just normal, something that we've seen since 1919, before we even had the equipment and no jet engines. So when NASA says they've seen contrails, for example, since 1919, not from jet engines because they weren't in existence. However, the city of Los Angeles is now got a weather modification in the San Gabriel Mountains. And this weather modification is new, starting in 2008. And now we're having complaints from agriculture producers in this area that they're in drought and not getting enough rainfall. The Panhandle, Texas ranchers are complaining bitterly that weather and their snow and rainfall is being redirected into other areas by weather modification programs, and that the grass isn't growing, so that they either have to feed their cattle or go out of business. And there's an online discussion of that on March 6, 2008, that you can download from the Texas regulatory body here to listen to their complaints. Panhandle, Texas ranchers are complaining bitterly that weather and their snow and rainfall is being redirected into other areas by weather modification programs, and that the grass isn't growing, so that they either have to feed their cattle or go out of business. And there's an online discussion of that on March 6, 2008, that you can download from the Texas regulatory body here to listen to their complaints. And they even feel that some of the weather modification programs have triggered tornadoes and unusual weather events in their areas.
It was up about 4 feet in the air, so you were having splashback. And actually took 2 rain samples, one in July and the other one back in December. And what happened is I didn't really want to know. I'd read all the stuff about the chemtrails, and I knew they would spray us because I'd seen them spray us with malathion. Back in the 90s, we had a problem with what's called the Mediterranean fruit fly here in Central Florida, and they decided in their incredible stupidity they would spray us with a neurotoxin called malathion. I mean, they sprayed the houses, the cars, the homes, the everything. Everybody got sprayed with malathion. So I knew that these idiots would do something like this. And so I tested the water, and then I took the sample and I put it in the refrigerator and sealed it. And I thought, do I really want to know this? Well, 6 months later, they were spraying us really heavy again. It was over Christmas, and I took the water samples again. And finally, I sent them to a laboratory out of California, and I put them down as rainwater samples, and both of them came back so high in barium and aluminum, they were considered toxic by the EPA. I have those rainwater samples tests posted on my website. And so at that point in time, I began to realize, George, that somehow these compounds, these elements are being put into the atmosphere. But they tie together, though, remember, with HAARP, they tie together with the military-industrial complex. We can start talking about that in detail if you'd like. They also tie together with scalar wave application, and they also tie together with the artificial intelligence they're trying to connect us all together with by ionizing the atmosphere with so much electromagnetic radiation and plasma. So there's a lot of really interesting things we can talk about tonight concerning all of those topics, and each of those is a lecture on its own that I've written and actually have in my notes here that I can go through.
There are 20 shows all by themselves, Ted.
Well, it's so funny. Your producer asked me to send you 30 questions, and I started laughing because, I literally have 100 articles in multiple journals laying out in front of me for an hour-and-a-half show, and I thought, this is going to be fun trying to get all this done in one night. So, but it all ties back together with Morgellons. It ties together with the artificial computer. It ties back together with Satanism. I know that's hard for people to believe.
That's a weird
black magic.
All right. Now, the barium and aluminum that's been discovered, is there any way that would be in the atmosphere naturally?
If you had some hydroelectric power plants, not hydroelectric, but coal-fired power plants, like in China, if the coal was contaminated with these types of metals, It could be in the thing, but usually that's sulfur dioxide that's being caused, and that causes the acid rain. I've never heard of coal being contaminated in these types of concentrations with it, so I don't believe in any way that can be in the atmosphere naturally, George. And plus, on top of that, this Alzheimer's has gone through the roof in the United States now. We've got so many people suffering with senile dementia, and so many problems with so many people suffering with so many different types of disease.
Yeah.
I mean, look at this mess with adult onset diabetes. I mean, look at the high blood pressure. Look at the depression. Look at the cancer rates. I mean, all these things are through the roof. I mean, right now we've got people that are in their 40s and 50s coming down with Alzheimer's disease. And when you inhale this aluminum powder, you know, these microcrystals, we can talk about that in depth if you'd like, of this aluminum compound into your body, into your brain, it goes directly into the bloodstream. Somebody goes right through the olfaction directly into the brain. And so it's a really quick way to give yourself Alzheimer's disease. So there are some things you can do, and also we're being sprayed with biologicals, which I believe are creating the Morgellons compound that we have in our body, this cross-domain species of fungus, plant, and insect is what it is. It's a cross-domain species when you finally analyze it, and we can go into detail on how that's formed. So there's so much stuff. Wherever you want to go with us, we can go tonight.
The spraying is being done for what purposes? To dumb us down, to manipulate the weather? What are they trying to do?
Well, what happens is this. The spraying is being done for a variety of different types of things. What they're primarily doing, they initially started off with the spraying, and they were doing it primarily from a military standpoint. And what they wanted to do, they wanted to have the people in the United States not be aware of what was going on. What happens is you're sending up energy into the atmosphere, and they were trying from a let me just kind of start. Let's take a look at the issue from several angles. When you have heavy chemtrail spraying, it occurs most of the time, in the later afternoons and early morning, and you can see in the clear skies, it's photoionizing. It starts to kind of glow, and it sets up a huge plasma charge in the atmosphere. And what this does, it allows the scalar radar and the scalar weather radar, and also the military radar applications, to penetrate much more deeply with their ground-penetrating radar.
Hold on for constant respiratory problems that are now epidemic. Is there any connection between this and the growing epidemic rates of other human diseases that are proven to be connected to highly toxic heavy metal exposure? Lab tests from around the globe have long since proven a mountain of heavy metals like aluminum, barium, and strontium are raining down on all of us. These metals are the primary elements named in climate engineering patents. Yes, this is connected to the dirty, dingy, often checkerboard striped toxic mess that we see in our skies day in and day out. If you don't believe it, it doesn't matter. You're still breathing this contamination with every breath, and it's building up in your body. Several dozen lab tests from Shasta and Siskiyou counties alone, about 70, I believe, prove this beyond any shadow of a doubt. Why aren't we being told? Why don't meteorologists and institutions like the Weather